As promised in our most recent video of the Super Bowl era's most disappointing teams, we are getting our first repeat performance by a franchise as we kick off the top 25. They will be following the 2008 Jacksonville Jaguars, who we saw at number 26. But first, we need to talk about C-Score. C-Score was created by this channel as a means to evaluate all NFL teams during the Super Bowl era beyond just looking at their records. For a deeper explanation about how all this works, be sure to check out the description of this video. Let's get a quick rundown on how a team qualifies to make this list. Season 1 in a 3-year series brings forth a positive C-score. Season 2 improves upon that while being at least a 15. Then Season 3 brings forth a negative C-score. This one becomes the disappointment. The bigger the drop from Season 2 to Season 3, the bigger the disappointment. They landed at number 32 with their 1989 squad, and now the Chicago Bears kick off the top 25 with their 2013 squad. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Let's get this thing started. 2011 was no magical season for the Bears. In fact, most of these numbers point to them being downright average. An 8-8 record, 17th in points scored, and 14th in points allowed. That strength of schedule and point differential was above average though, allowing their C-score to creep into positive territory at 3.086. This season was kind of a disappointment in its own right when just looking at the season before. The Bears won 11-5, won the NFC North, and hosted the NFC Championship game. Few would have predicted that before the season, but since it happened, it set up a certain level of expectation heading into 2011. A 2-3 start to the season wasn't the best way to get on the right track, but the 5-game winning streak that followed it was. That 5th win over the Chargers did prove costly though, as quarterback Jay Cutler broke his right thumb while attempting a tackle after an interception. Cutler was having a solid, if unspectacular, season to that point, but that kind of stability was what this offense needed. The problem was the quality of play, or lack of quality of play, from his backups, Caleb Haney and Josh McCown. Cutler had thrown 7 picks in 314 attempts. Those two combined for 13 in 157, nearly double the amount of interceptions in exactly half the attempts. Not so good efficiency. That 5-game winning streak was quickly wiped out by a 5-game losing streak before the Bears went on the road in Minnesota to level up at 8-8. Cutler's injury didn't cost them the Super Bowl or anything, but the lack of turnovers would have given them a much better chance at a couple more wins that would have put them in an NFC playoff field that was won by a 9-17. Statistically speaking, 2012 was a major upgrade for the Bears. They jumped from 8-8 to 10-6. Their point differential rose from +12 to +98, and they allowed the 3rd fewest points in the league against the top half schedule. Their C-score got a big rise as well to 15.73. It may have been better statistically, but maybe not so much emotionally or mentally. In the same way 2011 was a disappointment in and of itself, so too was this season, and it was all internally. They added wide receiver Brandon Marshall, a former teammate of Jay Cutler from their Broncos days, to add some juice to the offense. The defense stayed mostly intact, but leveled up considerably. At the midway point of the year, Chicago sat at 7-1, their best start to a season since the legendary 1985 squad. They led the league in point differential. They were 3rd in scoring and 2nd in points allowed. They had 6 interceptions run back for touchdowns in their first 7 games, an NFL first. In other words, if they weren't the league's top Super Bowl contender, then they were at the very least in the top 3. The only thing is, the second half of the season happened. They put up a total of 13 points in back-to-back losses, got another win, then lost 3 straight games by a single possession, including one in overtime. All of a sudden, they were 8-6 and in danger of missing the playoffs. They rebounded to win their final 2 games to finish at 10-6, but the damage had already been done. One of those 3 straight losses came to the Minnesota Vikings, and they too finished with a 10-6 record. Because they split their games with each other, it was on to divisional record as the next tiebreaker. Minnesota was 4-2, Chicago was 3-3. With the Seattle Seahawks grabbing the first wild card, another team the Bears lost to during that 3-game losing streak, the Vikings took the second, and Chicago was left out in the cold. To fall from Super Bowl contender to out of the playoffs in half a season is demoralizing, but the Bears could take heart that they had the right pieces in place. 2012 wasn't their year, but the hope that 2013 could bring them their glory was rooted in reality. Although sometimes, as the movie said, reality bites. Despite a massive improvement on offense and a much easier schedule, the Bears fell apart on defense and found themselves outscored on the season by 33 points. Their record fell right back to 8-8, the same as 2011, but the underlying numbers really hurt their cause. The NFC North was the most winnable division in football, and they couldn't even win that. Their C-score reflects all of this, taking a dive to negative 8.847. No team during the Super Bowl era saw a swing in their points scored and points allowed ranking like this team did. And look, we've got a chart to prove it. Their points scored ranking went from 16th to 2nd for a swing of 14. Their points allowed went from 3rd to 30th, a swing of 27, for a combined swing of 41. You may recognize the 3rd place team on this list, the 2010 Dallas Cowboys, as the number 29 entry on this list of disappointments. Yeah, it could be argued the 83 Seahawks would be number 1 here, since they had to play in a 2018 league, but the numbers are the numbers. And remember, these are the Chicago Bears we're talking about, a franchise universally known for their defense over their offense. Unlike the 2011 season, an injury to Jay Cutler didn't hurt the team, even though his backup was the same. No, Josh McCown came in and tore things up, so much so that he was given renewed life as a starting quarterback the next season at 35 years old. That's where the good times end for this team though. On defense, they had quite a bit of turnover and many players weren't nearly as effective as they were the year before, but perhaps nothing hurt more than Brian Urlacher's departure. He wasn't quite the all-world superstar he once was, but he was still highly effective and unquestionably the glue of the team. The Bears did win their first 3 games, 2 in a shootout and 1 in more of a squirt gun fight, but the defensive hemorrhaging was undeniable. They allowed at least 20 points in every game this season. Not even the Minnesota Vikings, the only team in the league this season to allow more points than the Bears, did that. Yet, they entered the final week of the season at 8-7 and were hosting the Green Bay Packers. They get the win and they're North Division champions. And they held the lead. Late. And blew it, of course, because of their defense. In all, they set franchise records for yards allowed, rushing yards allowed, and points allowed. They were the only team in the league to allow more than 5 yards per carry, and we're not talking about 5.01, they were at 5.35. After last season, they fired their defensive-minded head coach in Lovie Smith for supposed offensive mastermind Mark Trestman. The offensive performance this season was nothing but fool's gold, as they were right back in the dumpster the following season. Sometimes, you get exactly what you ask for. In this case, that's a whole heaping of disappointment. We're keeping up the trend of fine margins here, with the Bears taking their place ahead of the Jaguars by less than a quarter of a point in C-score. Our next entry will introduce a new franchise to the countdown, so all of these franchises here are safe. For now. Be sure to join us for the release of that video to find out who it's gonna be. You've made it to the almost end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking around this long. Be sure to like and share it, along with subscribing to the channel and dinging that notification bell. Not only does it help out a lot, it also gives me the warm and fuzzies. It is interesting that all three of the seasons we covered here could be considered their own disappointments, and it's further interesting that there were no playoff appearances for the Bears in any of them. That's what brings the 2013 season down so much. They had a chance to right a wrong, and they simply failed to do so. In the 11 seasons since, Chicago has had one winning season, 2 positive C-scores, and 2 playoff appearances with 0 wins. Their last playoff victory over a winning team was all the way back in 2006. Let me know what you think about this entry. With no playoff appearances in the preceding seasons, did you have any expectation that this team would make the list? Or did you see them as a sleeper pick given the otherwise quality of their 2012 season? Who else are you expecting to see here in the next 24 spots? Sound off on these topics or anything else you may have on your mind down in the comments section below. Thank you once again for joining us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.